Start your day with Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal. The instant oatmeal ready to help you tackle whatever your day brings. Like wrangling your toddler into their car seat. That was fun. Coaching your 6th graders soccer team. Go girls! And carrying all the groceries in one trip. Whew. Try Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal, granola, and bars. Great taste and a good source of protein. Quaker, bring out the good.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Nothing brings people together quite like Team USA at the Olympic Winter Games. From NBC Universal's iconic storytelling to the innovative technology across Xfinity and Peacock, Comcast brings the Olympic Games home to America, sharing every moment with millions. When Team USA steps onto the world stage, people aren't just watching, they're cheering together. This winter, everyone is all on the same team. Comcast, proud partner of Team USA.
Not the games anyone wanted or expected from a British Paralympic point of view. I'm John.
And I'm Michael. This is the latest Milano Daily from Anything But Footy, talking about the Olympics and the Paralympics all the time, not just once every 4 years.
Coming up, after just one silver medal at Milano Cortina, we hear from the Performance Director of UK Sport.
I am Dr. Kate Baker, Director of Performance and People at UK Sport. It's probably played out a little bit as we had expected.
That interview coming up for you in full as Italy celebrate their best ever Winter Paralympics on home snow and ice. And in other news from the Games, with the latest athletics headlines before next week's World Indoor Championships in Poland.
This is Milano Daily from Anything But Footy. The Winter Games may be coming to a close, but we will still be here.
I just want to start by picking up on something you said right at the beginning. You said not the Games anyone wanted or expected from a British Paralympics point of view. Did we maybe expect it wouldn't be quite as good as previous editions based on some of the briefings that we'd attended?
Yes, I don't think anyone expected it to be quite this bad.
How bad has it been?
It's been bad. One silver medal, a couple of fourth places, a fifth in the mixed doubles curling. Teenagers making their Paralympic debut has been a highlight, and Menna Fitzpatrick's fifth and sixth places, an achievement in themselves after her ACL injury in December. But sadly, on the final weekend of Milano Cortina, it is the worst Winter Paralympics for Great Britain and Northern Ireland since 2010. Before the Games, as we've said, UK Sport told us their expectations for Paralympics GB were lower than Beijing. But this low? I don't think so. And so with another Games in Europe to come in 4 years, what next? Michael's been speaking to Head of Performance at UK Sport, Dr. Kate Baker.
It's so wonderful to have a Winter Games back on a European time zone with winter villages and stunning backdrops. I think that in and of itself has been fantastic. I think we've seen a lot in terms of talent out here and future talent. And I guess, from a medal perspective, we knew it was going to be more difficult coming into this Games. So that's why we set a lower medal range from the off. And it's probably played out a little bit as we had expected. Wonderful for Neil to pick up another medal and hopefully more to come tomorrow. But it's not been an easy run-in for either him or, of course, Menna.
Yeah, I know we've spoken before, but just outline some of the challenges that our para-athletes have faced in this cycle heading towards these Games and why that's impacted that medal return.
So I think, parasport was hit far harder than Olympic sport post-pandemic. And so the ability to actually get out and get back on the circuit and compete has been really, really difficult. So access to competition has been a challenge globally. But of course, we've had some very specific challenges across individuals with injuries that have been quite tricky to manage. And right up to the wire, we weren't sure whether Menna was going to be here. And so for her to come out and compete has just been wonderful for her, a testament to her dedication and commitment to her rehabilitation. And it feels like she's just starting to find her mojo a little bit towards the back end of the competition. So it has been challenging for a couple of our athletes. And then, of course, if you look across other sports, curling's a really good example. I know that they may feel a little disappointed with their results, but actually, what they've achieved in 4 years is unbelievable. We've gone from having a team in Beijing, which now looks completely different. We have English curlers. It's unbelievable. And to have Joe Butterfield and Jason, I just think they've been so fantastic. So I hope that they will reflect on these games and feel proud of what they have achieved. And I know that it's just probably come a bit too soon for a few of our athletes.
Is it a transition games in terms of what you've just said there and a number of the teenagers that we've seen competing?
I think we're absolutely building for the future. And even, some of our return medalists, Neil being an obvious one, he's only 23 and he's the veteran of the team. So I think it's absolutely the case that we're building for the future. And I think we've got some really good signs that there's some potential in there that will go on and win medals in the French Alps. So I'd hope that we're talking about a very different performance outcome in the French Alps, but I think we can be really proud of what they've managed to achieve on their first outing.
And we know that UK sport now, it's not a equation that medals won equals funding. So something like curling, £1.5 to £2 million. But because they haven't medalled at these games, that doesn't necessarily mean that the future is bleak for that para curling programme.
No, absolutely not. What we spoke to curling about post Beijing was how they do build a sustainable future for themselves with a footfall of talent coming through, which can help, for the future and build a brilliant Paralympic program that lasts beyond one or two games. And they have taken that challenge and embraced it and gone above and beyond. Now, that hasn't quite borne the fruit from a performance perspective yet, but I've got no doubt that it will. And so whilst, if you look at the mixed team event, the scoreboard doesn't necessarily flatter them, but I think actually they put in some really good ends there. There were some unbelievable shots played across all members of the teams. Austin only picked up a stone 2 years ago. And so to put in those kind of performances is pretty exciting. What they now need to do is build the consistency. And so as we go into review with them, those are the questions we'll be asking. How do we make some of those bright spots become more consistent as we build towards the French Alps?
And it is difficult, isn't it, in team sports? We see that with hockey at the Olympics. You have to carry a lot of people, players and staff. But in curling here, we've got 2 medals. It's the same in the Olympics, only 2 medals to aim for in hockey. It's tough for a team sport environment.
It is tough for a team sport environment. And of course, you layer in the home nation context that we navigate in the UK, which makes it, even more interesting, shall we say, if not challenging, that we'll have England and Scotland competing separately in many of the competitions across the cycle. And then we come together as GB. And as you've seen in the mixed team event, they are a mixed team from Scotland and England. And so us, really getting under the skin of what does that blend of time on task need to look like, of togetherness versus separate competition, and then making sure that we are supporting the right athletes who really can go on to achieve something extraordinary is going to be critical.
How's the games been behind the scenes?
It's been a really fun games behind the scenes. So Paralympics GB always do a brilliant job of creating this sort of one team family feel. And I think whether you're a stakeholder like UK Sport or you're a parent of an athlete, I think everybody has felt really embraced by that, and it's quite contagious. They're a really positive group to work with. And of course, they don't just contribute at games time. What's really special about Paralympics GB is the work that they do in cycle with the sport. So behind the scenes, it's been good. It's been a good environment. Of course, there was a boost when Neil picked up his medal in the middle of the week. But they've got some real characters in the new athlete cohort, which I think are injecting a bit of fresh energy, which is really, really great.
And I guess there's a slight challenge there in that Paralympics GB, as well as getting athletes to the games, have a higher purpose around their athletes and around what they want to do. But as UK sport, you have to show some achievables, some deliverables for the investments that you put in. And that's always going to be tough, I guess.
Yeah, it is. And I guess it's easy to position them as being in tension with each other. But my view is that they're not, that actually you don't get to do the other stuff unless the performance comes first. We know that. We know that performance gives us the platform to go on and do social impact work and to achieve broader things. And we're equally invested in that at UK Sport. One of our primary ambitions is to inspire positive change. But we know that it comes off the backdrop often of medal success, but certainly from extraordinary performances. And that makes the whole mission harder when the performances don't come. And so we're not going to shy away from that. It's going to be critical for us to understand how we can make sure that those performances do continue to come so that we get the platform to do the wider social impact stuff, which is so critical. And we're uniquely placed to do. Paralympics GB have a platform which very few other organisations have in this space. and they do brilliant work. So it's critical.
And just before we wrap up, 1 day to go, still could get that second medal, which would be the lower range of the medal ambition. But from a UK sport point of view, there is still very much a commitment to funding para sport in this country moving forward, and lots to be optimistic about.
Absolutely, yes. And I think we can all look at the potential that we've seen this week and feel excited about the future. It requires support, and we're not shying away from that. We remain committed to Paralympic sport, whether that's winter or summer. And we'd love to see greater performances come in the future. So we're looking forward to getting in a room with the sports once they've had a bit of a break to talk about how they're feeling post games and what they want to do and how we can best support them going forwards.
Loads of interesting things to pull out of that conversation that I recorded there with Dr. Kate Baker from UK Sport. You were talking about this being the worst performance for quite some time for Paralympics GB. I remember going with you to the HQ at Paralympics GB Snow Sport and Team GB, where we got a briefing and we spoke to Dr. Kate on the record about what they were hoping to achieve. I believe that was in January. She talked about not relying on alpine skiers for medals, wanting maybe to win curling medals, win snowboarding medals. I think that when these medal ambitions were probably set, and whilst we were told about them in January, they probably had been set in reality a little time before that. I think they were expecting Menna Fitzpatrick to win a couple of medals at these games, at least, before the injury. And I think what Dr. Kate, when she spoke on the record in January, then knowing about the injury, was then trying to big up or trying to help, if you like, some of the other sports to say, we don't think that Menna is going to win a couple of medals this time around. And therefore, somewhere the slack needs to be picked up. And one in curling for Joe Butterfield and Jason Keane, and one in snowboarding for James Barnes-Miller. Maybe that would have be where the slack was picked up. So, yeah, I think that's one thing. I mean, you listen to that. Dr. Kate mentioned Menna 3 or 4 times. So I think clearly that's been a huge blow to this team, which is difficult when so much is placed on the shoulders of one athlete. I mean, we'll go on and talk about it in a minute, but let's say Veronika Aigner had got injured for Austria, their medal ambitions would have been completely blown out the water, wouldn't they? So although, I think that's...
To be fair, she's still got a brother who's won a lot of golds as well.
She has, but, you know, they would have been halved in their total. And I think what we've seen, and Neil Simpson still has another event, could still win a second medal. But I think probably when those medal ambitions were probably signed off in November, December, whenever that might have been, I don't know. I'm just guessing. We probably would have signed off a couple for Neil Simpson, a couple for Menna Fitzpatrick. That's the reliance on the para-alpine skiing. Could we then pick up one other somewhere? That's where the 2 to 5 ranges come from. Menna's injury has put the kibosh on all of that.
And she said, Michael, that they're at the start of the process for wheelchair curling. So it's the beginning. But what have they been doing for the last 3 years, 4 years? Because 4 years ago we finished 8th. Now we finished 10th.
Yeah, and I think what they are trying to do, my understanding, is they're obviously trying to build a program where maybe you need to go backwards a little bit to go forwards. So in the past, it has been very reliant, obviously, on a small cohort of Scottish athletes. But I think what they're trying to do is build a broader pool of talent to choose from in the longer term that will build longer term success. It's like when a club gets promoted from the Championship into the Premier League back in the day. What that club would then go and do is go and buy 5 or 6 kind of proven but slightly underperforming Premier League performers. I think you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
But it's the quick fix that gets them through that first season. But it's not the long-term strategy for Premier League success going forward, is it? No. So I think what they've done and what Dr. Kate was telling us there about British curling is they've sat down with British curling and said, right, what is the long-term plan here for wheelchair curling? And we might have to, at these games, give this one up a little bit. We're probably not going to win a medal. As I said, I think they had hopes that Jason and Joe could win a medal at these games, and they were close. But in elite sport, that is where the best and the ones that don't win medals, that's the difference, isn't it? They didn't, in their key moments, deliver the stones they needed to do. So I think from a curling point of view, maybe the time to judge them is at the next one. That would be my kind of analysis of the situation.
Well, let's contrast the British feeling about these games with the Paralympics themselves, because revealed yesterday that the IPC said they'd had 276 million video views on their YouTube channel since March 4th.
A lot of them me. A lot of them are me.
And me, because I can't stand Channel 4. Now, that is more than the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games in total. So here's my question, Michael. We're sitting here being understandably a bit disappointed with how the Brits have got on in these Winter Paralympics, even to the point, and I think we mentioned it earlier on in some of the episodes, even to the point where we're saying, should the Winter Paralympics really be merged with the Winter Olympics? Could they actually stage these events in one 2-week period, and the Paralympic events come into the Winter Olympic events, and it becomes like the Commonwealth Games. It's the shared sporting Winter Games in effect. But if you're then looking at what the IPC are saying, they've had a great games. I think Craig Spencer's on the record saying it's been incredible. So they're not going to turn around and say, we want to join the Winter Olympics, are they?
No, I think one of the reasons, and you said it there, that the viewing on the video sharing sites and the digital platforms has been so good is because the television coverage has been so bad. Certainly in this country, I mean, if you wanted to watch curling of an afternoon and evening, it was simply easier just to go and find it on YouTube. It was all there. And I have watched most of it on YouTube. Now, I don't know what is happening in other countries in terms of what their coverage is, but I suspect it's probably a similar pattern globally, that the Winter Paralympics just doesn't get the level of TV coverage that the Summer Paralympics has. So therefore, there is still that huge interest in it. There are still people that want to go and watch elite sport, great sport, follow their home nation hopes. And therefore, YouTube is the option. The social media sites are the only way to go and follow it. It's the only way, really, I've found. You know, the Channel 4 coverage in this country, and they revolutionised the way parasport was presented in 2012. These games, from a broadcast point of view with Channel 4, feels like a little bit of a step backwards for me. That said, the coverage of the Winter Paralympics has come on leaps and bounds. And, you know, it wasn't that long ago. What we would get from the Winter Paralympics is half an hour of highlights 4 weeks after the event's finished. So we should be grateful we've had live coverage every morning, but I wanted a bit more from it. I just sort of felt it was sort of 60% there. And therefore that is why I just thought, well, you know what? I'm going to sit and pick and choose and I want to watch it. It was like London 2012 and the BBC, when you had every session of every sport streamed and you could just go and pick and watch what you wanted to watch. And that's the way I've consumed these Winter Paralympics.
And the Olympics is never going to team up with the Paralympics and stage an event, is it? It's just never going to happen. It's a good question and something that we have thought about, and unarguably, with the performance from a British point of view, you can see why we're saying it. But it's never going to happen.
No, I don't think it will. I don't think there's an appetite in either organisation for it to happen. I think it's one of those great talking points for people like you and me and other people that cover Olympic and Paralympic sport, especially in one of those quiet days during the games. It's a great thing. I think there is an opportunity there. I think there's a practical reason why it would be a good thing to do in terms of, you know, a host nation as it stands. You know, Cortina's probably been on lockdown for the Olympics and the Paralympic Games for months now, and they'll have to do their sums whether that was economically good for them when they start ripping it all up on Monday and go back to normal and take the roadblocks out and everything else. So, you know, could it mean that a smaller region, you know, in effect could take on the whole thing because actually that shutdown wouldn't be required for so long? Is there enough flexibility in terms of times on the slopes to try and fit in all the Paralympic events and all the Olympic events? I think for many reasons it would work really well, but what I wouldn't want to see is a dilution of the program of either side. And actually, maybe the answer is a growth in the Winter Paralympics to bring, and our colleague from TalkSport in the summer, Steph Reed, who's presenting the Winter Paralympics coverage on Canadian TV at the moment, para figure skating, for example. You know, Steph has been very vocal in trying to get that on the program. I've also read quite a lot of stories about whether there could be some para bobsleigh events. So there is a para monobob circuit, as I understand, as well. So maybe the answer is not the integration. Maybe the answer is the expansion of the Winter Paralympics to give more sport during the day so that the likes of Channel 4 don't go off there at lunchtime.
And also that would help in the fact that Cortina doesn't have much snow left, because it's a month on from the Winter Olympics and they had loads of snow in the Winter Olympics. And as we know, really, the last few days, and we've seen it in some of the complaints from the athletes, some of the conditions, some of the dangerous conditions at the start of the Paralympics as well, where people were being injured, that actually, if you are doing it earlier or together, it may solve this problem of, well, a month later, we're in the thaw. Spring has started, and the Paralympics are going through slush effectively, which I think some of the athletes have complained about in the cross country and in the snowboard.
Quick thought on this before we move on. If Menna Fitzpatrick hadn't damaged her ACL and had won 3 medals at these games, we wouldn't be having this conversation now.
Fair, I think. That would be 4. So say she did, and we've got 4 medals. They've hit their target, and they told us it wouldn't be as much as Beijing. So we would probably be saying, well, they told us it was. I don't know how I would feel still about the games in terms of the coverage, as you've already talked about, the fact that mid-afternoon they turn the transmission off and there's no coverage and that kind of thing, and the fact that nobody seems to know that it's been happening, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, certainly in this country. But I think you're right. I think medals always help. Those medal moments always help. This is Milano Daily, and the other news from the games coming up, because we cover the Olympics and Paralympics all the time, not once every 4 years.
When everything's happening at once, teams need clarity. Help move work forward with Loom, the AI-first video platform from Atlassian. With Loom, you can quickly record your screen, camera, and voice to explain what matters. AI instantly adds a title, summary, and edits to your video, so clarity travels with the work. Fewer unnecessary meetings, more effective ones. It's a team changer. Try Loom today at loom.com.
Let's round up the rest of the news from the games, because that's what we're here to do. And a 5th place finish for Menna Fitzpatrick and her guide Katie Guest in the women's slalom, visually impaired. Menna has shown clear improvement and progression throughout these games following that injury that we've been talking about. In reality, it's probably come just a bit too soon for her after the ACL, of course, that she had. We wish her well as she continues her comeback from that.
The goal was won by Veronika Aigner of Austria. Of course. Of course, it was won by Veronika Aigner of Austria. We've got a overseas sports personality of the year contender. 4 golds and 1 silver medal at these games. She won't even be on the shortlist, would be my prediction there, by the way. She also won 2 gold medals in Beijing. Unfortunately, the redemption arc that we've been speaking about with GB's Hester Paul and her guide Ali Hall, that will need to wait a little while longer. She was disqualified for straddling a gate.
There were some great snowboard scenes in Cortina. They went a day early, of course, as we know. A top 10 finish for debutante and the first female snowboarder, Nina Sparks, in the bank slalom. Beijing bronze medalist Ollie Hill finished 7th, as did James Barnes-Miller in his 3rd and last Paralympics. On Paralympic debut, Matt Hamilton was 11th and Davy Schuff was 19th. And in his words, not the fastest, but that's not the story. And I think this is a really interesting quote, Michael, from what Dr. Kate Baker told us, how much it cost for Great Britain and Paralympics GB to get to these games. Davy Schuff says, the first ever Winter Paralympian with motor neurone disease. I couldn't be happier. It's a complicated disease. It's an evil disease. The truth is, it's not incurable. It's just underfunded. And I think it begs the question, is the £8 million spent on taking the Paralympians to the Winter Olympics the right way of spending it, or should we be looking at trying to cure motor neurone disease? It is questions that the government has to ask and has to look and answer it. And at the moment, it's going to carry on supporting the Paralympians. But I think there was a really interesting quote from Davy.
Yeah, it's not something I had thought about massively in terms of where that funding goes. The solution that we will be told is that we need to fund both. And that's the difficulty, because we do need to fund elite sport and have elite sporting moments. And, getting Davey to the games, whatever that has cost, has for him, for the team around him, and for people living with MND, has probably been a huge deal. I remember speaking to Davey, and he was saying, I think it was 6 years ago, he was diagnosed with MND, and he was given a prognosis then that maybe he might have 2 years to live. And 4 years beyond that, he's at the Winter Paralympics competing for his nation. That is a big statement. That's a very public statement. And you can argue one that's been worth the cash that it's taken to get him there. We need people paying their fair share of taxes in order that we can try and, fund both strands and send money in both directions, because I think they're both important.
Yeah, well said. Italian Emanuele Perrothona won his second gold of the Games in the snowboard. He was a 2-time Olympian before serious knee injury, and now he's a double Paralympic champion in snowboard cross and banked slalom. In fact, he's the first man to win 2 snowboard gold medals at the same Paralympic Winter Games.
There was also a promising debut for 16-year-old Dom Allen in the men's giant slalom in his first Paralympics. Came 25th overall, moving up 2 places from his first run in the men's standing discipline. Silver medalist Neil Simpson and another teenager, Sam Cousins, on his Paralympic debut, didn't finish their first run and second runs in the giant slalom, visually impaired discipline, respectively. Fred Warburton and James Hannon finished 14th overall.
Austrian Johannes Aigner, yes, him again, the 20-year-old younger brother of Veronica, won his third gold of these Winter Games in that event. An Italian, René Del Silvestre, won his first Paralympic gold in the men's sitting giant slalom, just 20 minutes north of his hometown, San Vito de Caldore. Now, Silvestre also upgraded the silver he won 4 years ago. It means that this is the best Paralympic Winter Games ever for Italy, with those extra 2 gold medals that they won yesterday. And it adds to the fact that Milano Cortina was the best Winter Olympic Games for Italy as well.
36-year-old Scott Mina finished 14th in his penultimate Paralympic event before stepping away from biathlon and cross country. He qualified for the final in the morning and then came out swinging in the afternoon and gave it absolutely everything. Those were his words. Yobel Kamitov won the men's gold for Kazakhstan. That is the country's 5th Paralympic medal of these games. Kendall Gretsch won the women's pursuit sitting discipline for the US. She'd previously won a silver and 2 bronzes at these Paralympics.
So in other news from the Games, 26 national Paralympic committees have now won a medal, and that's the most in a Winter Paralympics ever. A 32-year-old record has been broken, and it was 25 NPCs in Lillehammer in 1994. It goes back to what we were saying, Michael, that it's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and also means over half the nations that are competing have won a medal, which will please the IPC as well, that all the medals aren't just being channeled in the same direction. That said, the best 2 teams in the competition in terms of the mixed team curling, Canada and China, they're in the gold medal match shortly. The Canadians beat Korea 8-7, only thanks to a 3 in the final end when they didn't have the hammer. It was a huge steal. And defending champions China defeated Sweden 7-6, also with a last end point.
It was close for the first period at 1-1 between Team USA and Czechia before the USA ran away with it in the para ice hockey semi-finals. America winning 6-1 in the end. Declan Farmer scoring 3 more goals, taking his tally in Italy to 14. America aiming for a 5th successive gold medal in the final tomorrow, and they will play in that final, yeah, you've guessed it, Canada.
So onto the medals table. Italy, 3rd, as we've said, ahead of Austria. They've the same number of golds, but the host nation has won 14 medals. Austria have won 11. The Aigners have won 8 of those, by the way. So I wonder who'll be carrying their flag in the closing ceremony. I wonder. China in the lead, 35 medals in total, 13 golds, 20 for the USA, including 10 golds. Russia, 6th in the table, ahead of Ukraine, who are in 7th.
In other news away from these games, we thought we'd bring you the latest athletics news because, as Michael mentioned, it's the World Indoors coming up in the next week. And it's March, so it must mean that Armando Duplantis is breaking world records again in the pole vault. He really is. The 15th time he has done it. Another centimetre added on. The world and Olympic champion adding to his own record, clearing 6.31 metres at the Mondo Classic. It's even an event named after him, a World Athletics Indoor Tour Silver meeting in Sweden. Norway's Sondre Gutesmussen finished second with 6 metres, and that's his second 6-metre vault of the season, which is impressive in itself, but it's 30 centimetres lower than Mondo, who won it.
Yeah, maybe we need to give Mondo some sort of backpack, or we need some, like in
a handicap.
Handicap system like we have in we just had the Cheltenham Festival. So yeah, so right, Mondo, stick these lead attachments to your spikes. Yeah, I mean, we talked about overseas sports personality of the year, didn't we, a short while ago? I think Mondo's won it the last 2 editions, and I mean, really, you can't look beyond him, can you? Absolutely fantastic again. And I think what we'll see this season is that world record going up in very small increments throughout the rest of the year. Organisers of the Birmingham 2026 European Athletics Championships have revealed the route for the 1K and the 5K Unity Challenge, taking place on the final day of the championships, Sunday the 16th of August. The greatest European endurance athletes will take on the road marathon that day, but fans are being given the opportunity to have their own medal moment at the championships by signing up for the Unity Challenge. Should we do it?
No.
Both routes will pass the stunning Birmingham Cathedral and the Grade 2 listed Birmingham City Council House before participants will cross the finish line in Victoria Square. Early bird pricing runs until the 31st of March. And that is, as I said, the Unity Challenge, the 1K and the 5K events, the mass participation element of the games. Maybe we could do the 1K.
I could walk it, maybe.
A relay. Sure. I'll do half, you do half.
Can we get
we'll drop the baton, get DQ'd.
Can we get 2 other people? Then we can do even fewer. 250 metres. The 2026 European Throwing Cup is taking place this weekend in Nicosia in Cyprus, although it was massively delayed. So we've had absolutely massive rain showers in Cyprus. So it's been delayed. There was no British athletics entrance, though. They decided not to travel to Cyprus due to the Middle East conflict, of course, that started a fortnight ago before these Winter Paralympics. And that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for your support during the Paralympics and the Olympics. We've been here with Milano Cortina every day, our Milano Daily. You can check out everything on our socials. Don't forget, we've got great British bosses to come. We've got a Josh Kerr interview coming up in the next week as well, ahead of those World Indoor Athletics. Make sure you check out the Spotify Olympics music playlist with Cotton Eye Joe and everything else in between. This is Milano Daily from Anything But Footy.